Beyond the Reel, brought to you by ShotDoc Photography, realshotdoc.com. Hey everybody, welcome to the stream. I'm Jonathan Thompson, I'm your host. We are live on E360 TV and all of the associated networks. The show is brought to you by Devil May Care Productions, and today we're going to talk about design. Now, last time we talked about screenwriting. I had a wonderful guest. James Kirk was here, and we talked about what goes into writing a screenplay. And today we're going to talk about what goes into designing. When I say design, I don't just mean costume. I don't just mean set. I'm talking lighting design, sound design, set, and costume. If you can design it, we'll talk about it. So let's get into that today. But first, I figured today will join us for a cup of tea. So let's go into design, shall we? Let's talk about the first aspect. Most people think costumes, characters. There's multiple features of design, and you don't have to be a good artist to design. You don't have to be able to draw. You don't have to be able to make the Last Supper. You don't have to be that Renaissance master. Design can be done with words. You can describe how you want something to look, how you want it to feel, where the light should be, and then hand it to an artist, and that artist can then do the rendering. So design and rendering are different things. So you got to keep that in mind when you're talking about design. One of the things I want to bring up is screenplays and writing. Often you'll get a brief description of the character. John is 6'2", short hair, glasses. He's wearing a blue shirt. That's a description, not a design. A designer then takes hold of that description and will transform it into what the audience will see. So let's start with costumes. Now, for my productions, I like to describe. I'm okay at drawing. I wouldn't say I'm good at it. So I don't do the final renderings. I don't do the final pictures. Those are done by my graphic artist, May Carey, who is not able to join us this evening, but that's who does most of my design work. And aspects I think about when designing costumes, it's not just how it looks. You don't design something just for the look. You've got to think, people are going to be moving in a costume. People are going to be interacting with this costume. So you've got to think functionality as well as form. If you don't do that, you've only done half a design. It's super important when thinking of your designs that you take what actions are happening into consideration. So when I did my Batman film, my Batman suit is actually armored because I wanted to do stunts in it and I wanted to take impacts. So the chest plate and the back plate are actually reinforced. The front plate is about this thick. And the idea there is I wanted to be able to fall on it. I wanted to scuff it up. I didn't want it to break. I didn't want it to tear. I didn't want it to be foam and look good, but have no real substance. So when I did my Batman, I have two cowls. One is a soft rubber, which I wear when I'm just standing and doing dialogue. Another is a hard rubber that when I'm moving around, it will keep its shape while the head is rapidly moving or interacting with things. And all of that, I had to consider when doing the original design. All of the plates on the armor are individual plates. They move, they flow with my body. Batman does a lot of fights, so I had to make a costume that could move with the fights. And all of that was put into the initial concept. every show that we have put on, the costumes are designed with what we do. So when we did The Fallen Rise to Redemption, the jacket that the main character wears in episode 2 was actually built from a curtain. It is a heavy-duty curtain because it has to be stiff. It has to look like something out of the Elizabethan era. And it works quite well. It's a beautiful jacket. And the camera picks up all of the different subtleties. So when you're designing costumes, you've really, really got to think, what will be done with this costume? Once you get that concept in mind, describe it, write it down, say what you want this costume to do. Then you can hand it to your renderer. You can hand it to your graphic artist. So just because someone says design, don't think, oh, I have to draw. You don't. Other things to consider with costuming. What kind of motions does a character do? Is your character going to be doing rapid splits? Are they going to be doing high kicks? Are they going to just be casually sauntering down the street? What seams need reinforcing? What areas are going to get heavy wear, heavy uses? What's going to be put under stress? If your character has a robe or a cape or something that needs to flow with the wind, what materials would be best? So you got to think of the waft and the warp, and does it stretch? Will it only move one way? Will it move both ways? So you've got to think, when you're designing, why am I designing it? And that's a huge part of it. I am a huge fan of visual association with my designs. If I am designing characters, oftentimes I will make sure that if one character is related to another character, then there is a color. There is something that associates character A and character B. Even in the houses, you've got to decide, if this is character A's house, why is it different from character B's house? How do we know who it belongs to? And those are aspects to take into consideration with the design of the character as well. What will they be using? Where will they be living? What things do you want associated with them? And how do you get your audience associated? So we find visual, so colors. Think Power Rangers. How do you know who the Red Ranger is when he's not in his Ranger costume? He is wearing and interacting with a lot of red things. And that's character design. He was designed that way. Everything about that character interacts with red. The Yellow Ranger, everything about that character interacts with yellow. So these are things to consider. Is, where are they going to be? Where are they not going to be? How are you going to get them there? One of the things that I like to talk about is lighting design. Now, lighting design is super important, not just for film work. You do photography. One of our show sponsors, The Real Shot Doc. If you look at his website here, look at this picture. This is my graphic artist, May Carey. Look at the way the light is only down one side and the shadows draw your eyes in. When doing lighting design, the key feature is not the light itself. It's the shadow. It's what will the shadow bring out. We have a beautiful castle. Look at the differences. This area here is shaded. This area is in full sunlight. All of those shadows lead your eyes to certain things. This is the solar eclipse from 2017. with a blue filter on it. If nature can come up with a design like that, you should be able to as well. So let's look at some of the other pictures that we've got here. Here you go. This is a headshot I had him do for me. If you look, all of this is in shadow. There's enough detail in the background that you can see. And then light down one side. All of this brings the eye to the central focus. So when you are doing lighting design, you design the shadows more than the light. Again, the same picture of May Carey. Beautiful picture. See, all of these pictures, the shadows emphasize what's going on. So that is the realshotdoc.com, ShotDoc Photography. You can get landscapes, portraits, and other such pictures from that website. But what he's done there is he's used lighting designs, static lights, flash lights, different intensities on the lights to give different ideas. If I reach to the behind this light here, I can flush it out. And what I'm doing there is increasing white light. If I bring it back down, you see the shadows are what give the detail. Increase the yellow light. Bring it back down. So with the lighting design, what you're trying to create is shadows that guide the eye. Shadows that bring your audience into your work. And that's not something you can write in. Let me adjust that back down a little. There we go. So that's not something you can write in a description. I want this kind of lighting. You can describe the color. You can describe a feeling, a warm feeling, a cold feeling, daylight, dusk, dawn, the feel of the light. And then an engineer, a gaff, someone with lighting experience comes in and goes, well, let me see what I've got. I currently have 4 lights in this setup. A straight light, which is very, very low powered, just to add a little highlight to the front. I have a main light, which is bringing the light down this side of my face, and I have a fill light over here. That fill light is just so this isn't completely in shadow. And then I have an overhead backlight so that I stand out from my background. All of that was designed with the idea of giving the best possible image for the show. When you're doing photography, play with your lights. When you're making films, when you're designing your lights, when you're coming up with the concept for your lighting, use stills. That's what continuity shots are for. You design something, it's beautiful, it's amazing, take a still. Capture that moment. You'll find you come back to it over and over and over again. You have to. If your lighting is not consistent, your film is going to suck. The action may be great. The filming, the look may be great, but if your audience can't see it, if one screen, this side of the face is lighted, you do a switch to whoever they're talking to, bring back and the light's full in the face, you've just lost your audience. They won't believe it. And that's the trick to making good film, is everything you design has to be to remove disbelief from your audience. The suspension of disbelief is a real thing. When you design your lights, you've also got to consider power. What Kelvin is the light? What temperature is the light? How close does the light need to be to get the effect you want? What can you put over the light to create new effects? One of the shots I am very proud of in one of the short films we did was that classic horror eyes through a box, like eyes through a slit. And the way I created that was with a cardboard box. I cut a square in a cardboard box. I put a light on one side of the box and my subject on the other. And then I put the camera right here with a 50mm lens focused just here so you could see the eye and the opening in the box. Everything was in shadow except this. And that design was done with a single Lume Cube light, moving it back and forth to get just the right distancing. So you've got to consider when you're doing your designs, again, same as costume. What are we doing with it? What do we want the audience to see? What is important? If I close the shutters on this light, I've just created an entire new light effect. If I like the effect, I make a note of the angle of the shutter. Right now, it is at a 15-degree angle. If I open it up to bring the light back in, now it's at about an 87-degree angle. So it's just little things like that. Having an understanding that will help you design your lights. A good lighting design will fix a lot of problems with your footage. Early stuff that we were doing independently, myself included, the lighting wasn't that good. I had done stage work for the longest time. So I was used to lighting large areas, audience there, they can see what's going on, beautiful effects with static lights for stage. For film, those effects needed to be different. I needed to bring the lights in closer, change the angle of the lights, because setting the lights like I would for a stage, it looked beautiful to the eye, but the camera didn't care. What we were looking at from the camera, it got grainy, it got gritty, it was picking up the look, but it wasn't picking up enough light to be clear. So it was a lot of time in post, fixing the blur, fixing the light, fixing the grain. For some of the horror films, that works great. That grainy look is nice. You want that. Lower your lights. You'll get a grainy look without having to use a filter, without getting into a lot of expensive fixtures or spending a lot of time in Fusion or After Effects. So lighting can fix the look, which brings us to sound. Sound design is one of the most important parts of any film. And I'm not just saying that because we're talking about design. Sound design can make or break what you are doing. You can have an absolutely amazing looking film. The lighting is perfect. The costumes are perfect. The acting is on par. Your shots are crystal clear. But it sounds like you're trying to drag your actors through a gravel pit. Or you've got the sound. You've got a microphone, a boom mic right here, off camera. You've picked up the voice. It's perfect. It sounds great. The level of the voice is perfect, but there's no other sound. It's not believable. The world is covered in sounds. If you close your eyes right now and just listened to what's going on around you, you might have an air conditioning unit going on. You might have the cooling fan of a computer. If it's quiet enough, you may even hear your own heartbeat, hear your own breathing, hear cars going by, past the window outside. The world is full of sounds. And a lot of the time, we take it for granted because we hear it all the time, every day. Include it in your film. I am in the woods. What happens in the woods? Animals. Animals happen in the wood. So I need animal effects. I'm outside. There's probably a gust every now and again. There's wind blowing. So I need rustling leaves. I need the sounds of the wind. All of these things can be very subtle, barely audible. But They are ridiculously important when doing your designs for your film. If your audience doesn't believe they are in the environment you're trying to put them in, you're going to lose interest in your film. So you need to take the time to design the sound. You need to take your time to make sure all of the noises are present. My father-in-law recently got hearing aids. He was driving back from the doctors with his new hearing aids in, and he was looking around trying to figure out what that noise was that he hasn't heard in 10 years. It was the wind. He was driving down and one of his windows was cracked. He could hear the wind. He hadn't heard it for so long. So right now he's super excited because he's walking around and he's hearing all these sounds that he'd forgotten existed. So you got to include those sounds in your film. You got to include those sounds in your design, because someone's going to notice. Someone's going to care that you put that in. Someone is actually going to pay attention and give you their money for your film because you took that extra moment to design something that they appreciate. So even as a director, the director is responsible for the overall artistic view. This is what's going to happen. This is how it's going to happen. This is how it's going to look. Why wouldn't you put as much effort into the sound as you would as the vision? One of the films I like to bring up when talking about sound is the John Wick films. They're amazing films. Visually stunning. Action amazing. Acting great. But the dialogue level is so far below the background noise, you can barely hear what they're saying. If they'd have brought the dialogue level up just a touch, you could have still had the higher sound of the background. I understand what they were going for. It's a cold-hearted, badass assassin. So he doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't get, brah, He's very quiet. He's very, well, you killed my dog. But I'd like to hear him tell the guy you killed his dog rather than going, what? I can hear the explosions. I can hear the music. I can hear everything else. Where's the voice? So you gotta level everything. Normalizing your sound is great. I normalize most of mine to about minus 8.5 decibels. Just because that's a comfortable listening sound. That's a comfortable level for these kind of things. But I always bring my dialogue up just a touch. Just a little bit. If there's a moment where everything has to be quiet, everything has to be intense, I'll bring the background noise down so that the dialogue is just to say heard without having to change the rest of everything else. It's not unusual for film to have almost twice as much sound as it does visuals. Several of the films I've worked on where I've had 7 or 8 different video tracks for a certain scene have had 12 to 15, sometimes even 20 soundtracks for that one scene. There's one we did that was about a 6-second clip, a 6-second thing. I had 8 video tracks, but I had 23 soundtracks. We were outside. There was a gunshot. There was yelling in the background. There was cars going by. There was animals. There was footprints of someone else running away during. So there was sound everywhere. And it was all designed to make the audience believe everything that was happening. We were in the woods. We needed the wood sounds. So, you've got to design your sound, your lights, your costumes, all with what's happening. How are these things getting interacted with? How is all of this coming together? If someone is going to burst through a wall, you've got to have the sounds of the wall breaking, the drywall crumbling, the wood cracking, the person getting impacted. If they have whatever noise they make, then there's the guy doing the punting. What noises does he make? I bring that up because when we did Crow Redemption, I got to kick my my co-star through a wall. My co-star just also happened to be my wife. She asked for it. It was a lot of fun. We did it all safely. And when I say safely, I mean let me tell you the story on this one. So our friend who actually is a doctor and runs the Shot Doc. Funny how that works, Shot Doc. So he was turning a little in-law house that he had in his backyard into his photo studio. And to do that, we needed to remove a wall. And one of the scenes from The Crow Redemption needed one of the villains to go through a wall. So we spent about 3 days decorating the room, designing the room, getting the room looking like the layer of this villain. And this was a messed up villain, like really, really messed up. There's the villain right there on shotdoc.com. That is my wife as Clown the villain in her layer. So you see you've got the wine bottles, the graffiti on the wall, floors all nasty, costume looks grubby as heck. It was all designed intentionally. You've got the broken drywall here. And what we did with this is we actually created an entire scene in this little in-law house that he had. And then we removed the backing. We removed the drywall from the back. We cut the studs. We scored the front piece of drywall so just the paper was there. And then we set a whole bunch of crash mats in the room behind that. And what we did is all of this design work. So you saw the character design, the room design. We set up the lights so that it was dingy and disgusting. And it looked like it was just a couple of lamps hanging on a wall. There was even a chainsaw rammed through the wall, not the part we put the character through. And then we started filming from 3 different angles. And then we kicked through the wall. And it was great. But I had 3 sound recorders as well as 3 cameras, all picking up the different sounds, all picking up everything that was going on in that room. And then I picked out each individual piece of sound, lowered some of it, raised some of it, added new sounds to design that whole feeling. Everything that's going on in there was designed so the audience would know exactly what we do. And it was great. It looks and sounds and feels amazing. And that brings us to set design. That room, it was a whole set. I've been to several production parties, and one of the things I liked is the old sets were used as backdrops for the party. They built, like the hosts of the party, who was a set designer, she built an entire wall in her kitchen that looked like a morgue. Little doors that opened, everything, all lined up. And it was just one wall. But if you run a camera across it, you would think you were in a morgue because of the way it was painted, because of the way it was done. And it was lightweight and storable. So when you're designing your sets, you got to think, am I going to destroy this set? Is it something I can use in the future? Is it something I can use over and over and over with a repaint? So when you're designing your sets, don't just think how I want it to look now. think about how many times you're going to revisit it. Is it something that can be modified? Why use one set if you can just repaint it or change a certain aspect, and now you have two? If it's something really cool that you can put in your house and then you can change the way your house is for guests and have a party, why wouldn't you? So you've got to design. Space sets are single units. Star Wars, they had an amazing idea with The Mandalorian. Digital backgrounds, huge TVs basically, and they just projected the background onto those. So the actors were not just in a green screen, they were in the environment. And that helps with the acting. It helps with that idea that I am in this film. I am on a desert planet because everything around you is a desert planet. So you've got to take those kind of things. Now that with the technology that's coming out, set design, you can go anywhere. Look at James Cameron's Avatar. Not only did they design the sets digitally, the characters did all of the acting in motion capture suits when they were the big blue guys. And then that character was transposed on top of the actor. So design is getting to a point now that it doesn't all have to be practical. Personally, I prefer practical, but that's my stage background. If I can do something real, I will do something real. And there's nothing wrong with that. You just got to understand how objects interact with each other. You've got to think about what you want the audience to feel. And that's what it all comes down to, really, with any design. What do I want my audience to feel? What do I want my audience to see? So as you're going into your film process, as you're going into the pre-production work, you've got your screenplay. You've got your actors. You know how you want it to look. Get an artist involved. Storyboarding exists for a reason. Design the storyboards. Show books that I've produced have been this thick. But I don't make the show book until I've done the pitch, until I know this is getting made. Once it's made, I say, this is what I want, this is what I want, this is what I want, this is what I want. That all goes in the show book. That all goes in. The pitch deck is 6 pages. It's a 1-page, this is who I am. It's a 5 to 6 pages of this is the show I'm producing. And, the last page is usually this is why you should pay me to produce it. That's a pitch deck. Don't worry about your show Bible. Don't worry about the big monster book of everything that is this show until you're getting paid to make the show. Because you're going to put all that time and all that effort into that for something that's never going to get made. So even though I do have show Bibles, I don't make my show Bible until I know the show is getting made. I have it all in my mind. I have notes. But I don't put together an entire deck, an entire pitch Bible, until someone is saying, go ahead, here's a green light. But all of those designs are in there once I do make it. Everything is in there. And that's the biggest thing. Have the idea. So when you're in the pitch and they go, well, how's this going to look? Oh, well, I want it to look like this, and I want it to do this, and this is going to be this, and this is going to be cool. Done. When you get asked a question at a pitch meeting, have an answer. They don't want to see it. They don't care about seeing it. What they want is to know that if they give you money, you can make a film. So once you have all of your ideas, once you have your money, once you know this show, this film, this piece of art is going forward, get your artists in. Get your concepts done. Talk to storyboarders. Say, I need this, 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 and this. This is how I want it to look. And let them do the work. Let them create the film the way you want it to look. Once you have those looks, you get with your lighting designer. You break it down. You say, well, this cell is this shot. So I want this is what's important to me on this cell here. And let the lighting designer create that lighting to give you the ultimate effect. Designers exist in all ranges. Fashion designers design fashion. It's in the name. Set designers design sets. Are they exclusive? Usually. Can a set designer design a costume? Most times. Can a costume designer design a costume? Yes. But that's not their focus. They're focused on one area of design for a reason. If you spread yourself too thin, you never design anything to completion. So if you are doing a one-man crew, you are designing everything yourself. Break the jobs up. Until your costume designs are done, you are a costume designer. Until your sets are done, you're a set designer. Until your lighting is done, you are a lighting designer. Don't try and handle it all at the same time, because you'll change your set to match your lights. You'll change your costumes to match your sets. Design each thing, then put them together. Once they're all designed, you can tweak. But there's no point tweaking as you go, because you'll never get finished. I know I've made that mistake. I know several people who've made that mistake. When you design all of the components, then put the components together. Cars are not built in one go. Each little piece is built, then it gets put together. So think of it that way. Everything is a piece in the machinery. Everything is a single entity. But each entity needs to be finished before you can put it together. If you bought a new car and half the gears were just rounded, they didn't have the spokes to move, your car wouldn't go anywhere. You'd have a complete car, but you wouldn't be able to go anywhere, because they never finished the design on that one piece. So that's what you've got to do. You've got to make sure all of your design elements are designed. You've got to make sure all of your different bits are done. And if you don't, you're not going to have a full film. And that's heartbreaking. As filmmakers, we put in a lot of time. We put in a lot of effort. Often we put in a lot of our own money, a lot of ourself. But if you don't have a complete product, you're not going to make money on it. A lot of people who consider themselves indie filmmakers right now are expensive hobbyists. I hate to say it, but I do. You've made a lot of good content, but you've not made a lot of money on it. People are so eager to get stuff out. They haven't stopped to think, are all of these components finished? If I put all of these designs together, will it work? A lot of indie filmmakers are jumping right in, going, okay, I've got wood, I've got people, I've got lights, let's go. You got to make sure that your colors complement. You got to make sure that your scenes work. Get a director of photography. This isn't something that's often talked about, but you can design camera movement. You can design the camera movement. They have machines for all of that. They have little bits that, they have rails that you can slide the camera on. You have steady cams. You have car mounts. You can design what the eye follows, down to the smallest thing. Netflix's Dracula, where the fly goes into the eye. It's disturbing, but you follow it. What's the other one? Extraction. Chris Hemsworth. There's some huge one-shot scenes. Birdman, huge one-shot scenes. A director of photography, and a cameraman sat down and designed that entire sequence. From start to finish, that was designed. That was intentional. You don't make that kind of quality just on a whim. Say, hey, let me have the camera and I'm going to chase you down the street. The guys who made Gamer with Gerard Butler, they were on roller skates to get some of the scenes they got. They were on skateboards. They didn't spend the hundreds of thousands of dollars on dollies and equipment and cranes. They just had a couple of crazy guys with a camera. But all of their shots were designed for the technology they had. Everything they did was picked by someone. Let's go ahead and have you hold on to this car and skate backwards. Why? Because it made sense. It worked. So don't be afraid to design something new, even if it's just a new technique for doing something. So techniques are designed. Lights are designed. Your scenes, your sets, everything. So you've got to take your time. You've got to make sure all of the elements are there. Because when all of your elements are designed properly, it fits together perfectly to make one whole unit. And that whole unit is where you'll see your return. So your designing is a huge. It's probably the biggest thing next to screenwriting itself. Take your time in pre-production. Take your time to make sure all of your ducks are in a row. For my Grand Theft Auto fans, the original game, make sure all the little guys in the orange robe are in a row. Because if they're not, and you make the film, getting a distribution deal is gonna be a pain in the butt. It's really gonna hurt. I know it sounds elementary. It sounds silly. It sounds simple to go on about design this way, but it's important. And I've seen a lot of indie filmmakers who haven't put the time into the design. They just sit there and go, throw something up on YouTube, then go on Facebook and say, hey, look what I did. Tell me what you think. And then when someone turns around with experience and says, you didn't think that through, did you? They get offended. They get upset because someone is critiquing their work, but the work isn't finished. It's like we said last episode with James. When is a screenplay finished? When the production is made. Because you make rewrites all the way through. You'll get last-minute redesigns all the way through. You'll pick something, you'll do something, and you'll think, this is amazing. This is the best looking thing on the planet. You'll start filming. You'll get halfway through and you go, you know what? I don't like the way that looks. Let me redesign it. And there's nothing wrong with that. As long as it fits in with the concept, as long as you still take into consideration everything that's going to happen with that costume, everything that's going to happen with that set, where you want the lights to be. You may even have to change your entire lighting design if you change one costume. It's happened. It can happen. One of the stage shows we did was a Elizabethan Star Wars. And I was playing ye old Darth Vader. The lights we had set, the design we had was amazing. Oh, it was beautiful. The big lightsaber fight between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader. We had our respective lightsabers, blue for Obi-Wan, red for Vader, and the background, all blacked out screen. The background, we had a blue light behind Vader and a red light behind Obi-Wan. And we increased the intensity of the background lights as they did the lightsaber fight. It was amazing. But I couldn't see anything. Darth Vader, all black. Lenses, black. Background lights were blue and red. We had one front light just to catch the reflection because we wanted the lightsabers to shine. All I could see was this lightsaber every now and again going past my face. It looked amazing. But it took a lot of work. Not just the lighting design, not just the costume design. The set design was easy at that point. It was a black stage. But we also put time into designing a fight. I know you get fight choreographers, so it sounds odd to hear someone say design a fight, but that's what we did. We designed it. We specifically made it because I'm blind. We knew I wouldn't be able to see. So we had to pick big sweeping motions that look amazing to the audience, but also keep us out of danger. I know where my opponent's going to be. He knows where I'm going to be. Going back to stage, it only has to look good from 10 feet away. The closest your audience will ever be is 10 feet. On film, for wide panoramic shots, that's great. You can do that all day long. And here, look, there you go. Back to Star Wars and the older films with large gatherings of people. They were painted on a mat. All of those stormtroopers in the Death Star, they weren't people in costume. It was a painting. But it looked great. So you gotta think of those kind of things when you're designing software. When you're doing 3D design, how's the person supposed to move? You got to design an entire skeletal structure, not just a character. So, this episode is called The Importance of Design. And I picked the title intentionally. Because I cannot emphasize enough how important it is. Everything you do needs to be designed. So there you have it. I was hoping to have a couple of guests on today's show. A set designer, a couple of costume designers. But today just turns out to be a pretty bad day for it. But I have been in contact with the designers. I've worked with these designers. So there's things like that. One of my friends who is a math teacher runs a costuming academy. I was going to try and get him on, and I just got a message from him saying he only just got the invite. So, I know several designers, all of whom have gone through the things that I'm talking about right now. All of whom have taken the time to learn their craft, the part of their craft. You ask a set designer to do lights, and half the time they'll just stick a couple of lights up and go, there you go. I'm sure they'll light every aspect of their set, because their set is beautiful. What about the people? What about the stuff going on inside the set? Well, that's not their job. Their job is to make the set look good. So each individual design has its own person for a reason. Our logo, the little winking devil. I asked May Carey to design me something. Our company's called Devil May Care. Not out of any religious thing. It's because my mother always told me growing up, my devil may care attitude would either get me rich or dead. And, you know, I kind of have a dry and cheeky sense of humor, so we made a cute little cheeky devil. But that took about a week to pick one design that I liked. And that's just a logo. So imagine the effort that goes into designing an entire film. And Thomas Parrish just commented with, yep. So thank you, Thomas. And, you know, Tom is a comedian. Tom is an actor. Tom runs an entire club of comedy events. He doesn't just do that from the seat of his pants. He's got to make sure that the stage is set, the sound is right, the audience is the right distance to get the best out of those shows. And that's a live show. So if a live show in a club needs that much design, your film needs equal, if not more. Just because you got to think, the camera's this close. The camera will see everything. It'll see the imperfections in the skin. Yes, you got makeup. You get a makeup designer. A makeup artist will make someone look beautiful, but you got to get a design for them to make a person beautiful. The Crow, the white face with the black markings, that was designed. It wasn't just a makeup artist was given a bucket of paint and said, make Brandon Lee look awesome. I'm sure had they done that, they would have done just as good a job. But it was designed. Brandon Lee was made to look that way. So you got makeup designers too. And all of these people come together to help you with your film. All of these aspects come together to help you with your film. And we make film not just for passion, not just to make us look good. And Isaac Wells says, yo, yo. Now, Isaac, I'm getting towards the end of the show, but I am going to be messaging you shortly because one of the episodes I want to do is on voice acting and sound design. And Isaac is a professional voice actor. So I want to get Isaac on the show and share his experiences and have him explain sound in a much better way than I can. But that brings us to the end of the show. So thank you, Isaac. Thank you, everyone, for joining in and watching us today. This will be a rerun on E360 TV and all of its associated things, such as the Amazon TV, Roku TV, Android, Apple, Periscope, those kind of things. So yeah, once I finish the episode, I'll shoot you a message, buddy, and we'll go from there. So, and check out Pyrolite Productions, which is one of the companies that Isaac works with. They do some amazing stuff. Really amazing. Check out Savannah Comedy Review. Don't forget to check out our sponsor, RealShotDoc.com. They do all of their pictures are available as prints. Also, they have a Redbubble, a Zazzle. You can get stuff from my designer one of my designers, which is TS Tire, and then, of course, there's the link to Devil May Care Productions. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say thank you again for joining me. You have a wonderful night, and go design something absolutely amazing.